The following program is brought to you by our Patreon supporters. For as low as $1 a month, you can get episodes of Journey of Wrestling a week early and more. You too would become cool, just like Distrucity KTL, Thomas Austin Jr., Passion Killer 711, Kitty Holbrook, Drake Starstorm, and of course our Trash Elite, Rob, and a guy from Ohio who requested I watch all of Cowboy Bebop. My counterpart here, I am Eric J. Chucky, by the way. My counterpart, the boy, also watched it, even though he is not contractually obligated to, because that is in excess of the Patreon agreement. Also watched it.
Well, I just like Cowboy Bebop, and it had been many years since I'd rewatched it, so...
Shucks howdy. What is there to say about what most people regard as one of the most seminal anime series of all time?
Lots. Turns out.
Yeah.
After finishing my rewatch, I didn't watch any of them, but I did a quick look on YouTube for Cowboy Bebop essays.
Okay, I like that we both went different directions after we finished the show.
Boy howdy, are there a lot of those.
It was important to a lot of people.
Shucks howdy, in fact.
Not me. I didn't watch it until,
now.
Yeah, just a couple weeks ago I started and finished about a week ago. But before we get into, let's do spoiler-free review. In case somebody out there wants to watch Cowboy Bebop and, has never seen it before in 2025, in case anyone listening who might be a patron wants to do that. Let's talk about what's crumpin', man.
What's been crumpin' with you?
Rivals continues to be a thing. I've tried out a couple of other games on the Xbox. It's been a lot and nothing. I think since the last time we played, since the last time we recorded, that we started new campaigns, each of us, in Wizards and Whites.
Yes, we have.
RPG you can also check out on Patreon at a slightly higher tier than $1 to be cool.
Think other tabletop RPGs you might know, but better and cooler.
And that's been kind of fun. I don't want to deliberate too long on what's been crumping. First of all, because at this point, not a lot.
Yeah. I've been playing some Marvel Rivals, and in defiance of all the really cool story games I was looking forward to or wanted to play, I bought Teardown and been playing that instead.
I am almost done with Dragon Age Veilguard. I really enjoy it. I can see how it's not exactly the same as the old Dragon Ages, but, it's this or nothing. The other thing you wanted, with all of the factors involved, wasn't going to happen.
And what might be a good segue, time moves forward whether we'd like it or not. It's been 10 years since the last Dragon Age game. Things were going to be different.
Yeah, so that's spoiler-free review of Cowboy Bebop. I really liked it, for the most part. You?
Yeah, I fucking love Cowboy Bebop.
Alright, if you haven't found your phone and your pause button after hitting that like and subscribe by now, the spoilers are on the table, and it is what it is. I don't know how much we're actually going to discuss all but maybe one or two spoilers, but these are spoilers I've had this whole time. I had friends who were really way more into anime than I was as a teenager, and they told me what happened in Cowboy Bebop. I didn't care. It wasn't my thing. Before now, I've only seen 2 episodes of the show, and that was Mushroom Samba, which I really enjoyed, and I wanted to make sure I pronounce it. Yeah, Pierrot Le Fou.
I forget.
It's Pierrot because it's clown.
Yeah.
Which was weird, especially out of context.
A wild swath of all the things you could have watched, but haven't rewatched it. Unless you happen to catch the 2 or 3 big story episodes, every episode of Cowboy Bebop is pretty different from all the others. They do a good job of being like a selection of largely isolated, self-contained stories.
It fits something I was really looking for, because I've been complaining of late that a lot of TV shows, especially popular ones, are really dire, dour, grim, serious, unfortunate situations. And I missed shows that were just a bunch of people, going around and having a good time. I mean, sometimes bad stuff happens, but like, that's not. It doesn't grind your soul to a halt so you can sit there and stare at the bad thing. And when a bad thing does happen, 3 more guys don't come in with fresh new bad things to make the bad thing 3 times as worse. And it's really nice to have Cowboy Bebop as a reminder of those times when that was the kind of show that I was able to digest easily. It is definitely emblematic of not just anime, but a lot of other TV series at the time. The ones I keep going to when I'm talking with friends are Renegade and Walker, Texas Ranger, things of that ilk. I'm sure you can think of season 1 of Supernatural. And there's really less of a plot to Bebop than that. Do we start talking about the episodes? Does we go one by one there? I feel weird telling you what Cowboy Bebop is. It feels like if we were to do a wrestling podcast and start by explaining the concept of Hulk Hogan. It's about Spike Spiegel.
26 years old, guys. I don't know that I can, in good conscience, try and explain the basic premise of fucking Cowboy Bebop.
It is a post-apocalyptic in event, but not in behavior. Light cyberpunk, because it's not that depressing. Space bounty hunter story.
It's a mixture of a bunch of genres. Interesting that you note post-apocalyptic, because while there has been an apocalypse level event on Earth, society it's not post-apocalyptic in its tropes.
No, yeah, I was trying to be very clear about that. Thank you for
post-apocalyptic might be better. It's
sure.
Sci-fi series.
Yes.
And as with so many sci-fi series, Earth's fucked, we gotta go somewhere else.
It's actually something I really used to love about the Star Wars universe, the exact level of disrepair everything is in.
And that's one of the reasons I love Cowboy Bebop, and one of the reasons I thought you would like it if you watched it, is it has that used future, I think is the term we used to use.
Yeah, maybe.
Gritty, grimy, lived in. It feels like people actually exist. It's not all smooth lines and rounded edges. I love that. I love how baked it feels. I love how grounded it feels, despite being very high concept. The main characters fly around on a spaceship called the Bebop, and they all have their own individual starfighters they fly around. And also, sometimes you'll just see a guy in like a Ford Econoline van.
Yeah. The side characters in this series are some of my favorites. The old dudes who appear now and then. Of course, the hosts of the bounty hunting show. You get a lot of good world building and culture. Jet's old cop buddies. I don't know. It's really... What a well fleshed out series.
So, I watched this when I was young.
Sure.
And it might go a little way to explain one of the reasons I like a world that feels cohesive, besides that just being a good thing. Because this world really does feel cohesive. It feels like it has its own history, its own things going on. Now, that's not 100% of the time. Also, wacky wild shit happens that feels like it does not fit the world building of the rest of the series at all.
I don't know that I'd agree with that, because so much of the world building is left intentionally vague. So that when the wacky wild stuff happens...
You just sort of go, yeah, this tracks too.
Sure.
This is definitely a world where there can be a guy who's psychically immune to bullets but not knives. Or a little kid who never ages. Or psychic Native Americans on Mars.
It's something that we've lost in the modern era of pocket internet access, and that's the isolation feeling of being anywhere. Even in a small town, I feel connected to the rest of the world, for better and for worse, 24/7. If I need anything, information, news, culture, details, videos, whatever, from around the globe, I can pretty much get it. Whereas in the 90s and before, you didn't have that. You lived where you lived, and there could be a weird guy immune to gun bullets, as opposed to the other kind of bullets, and not knives, somewhere in the world. We had no clue.
Yeah, it makes the world feel, makes the setting feel big.
Yes, I would agree. And that there are still a lot of secrets. It hits on those, let's say, stylistic tropes of cyberpunk, even though it doesn't necessarily hit on the cultural commentary tropes of cyberpunk.
Yeah, I would say there is cultural commentary in
Yes,
Cowboy Bebop, but it's not the same as you would get in Edge Runners. It's obviously the source of a lot of what came after it in anime in general.
Sure. It's kind of funny to go back and watch Spike and realize how many characters, both, original characters for role-playing games or stories or whatever, I've seen that my friends have made. And
he means me.
Oh, no, I mean a lot of people. Before I met you, I had a lot of friends who were just making Spike's Spiegel.
He's so cool.
But in broader media as well, I recognize what's going on there. I see why Steve Bloom has the career he does.
It's just there's a trope name, a cultural phenomenon name that we've mentioned a lot on this podcast in the past. Seinfeld is unfunny.
Sure.
The idea being that a joke isn't funny in the original anymore, because you've seen it done so many times in the material inspired by the original. This is kind of this is related, but I wouldn't say the reverse. It's that you can look at Cowboy Bebop and see so much of the next 20 years of anime after that in it.
Yeah. I would agree with that. And I haven't even watched that much anime. With the small sample size I have, I can still see those influences radiating outward. It's good that you bring up Seinfeld as unfunny. One might assume this to be the cause. I actually don't care for Spike that much. He's fine. He's probably the least interesting character in the main cast, to me. Almost 40 years old, watching this for the first time.
Well, I've been saving this for the podcast.
Okay.
I have what might be a philosophical reason why you think Spike is the least interesting character and you like Jet the best.
Well, I know why I like Jet the best, but please, I might agree with you. Go for
it. First explain, why do you like Jet the best? Because I believe he was your favorite, correct?
I think Jet would have always been my favorite. And what little I watched when I was younger, I really like Jet. He's mostly in control. He's allowed to be fallible. He's smooth. I love that he has the bonsai trimming hobby. That's actually something that a very early role-playing character of mine had. He carried around a bonsai tree in his backpack, and he tried to keep peace by, taking time to make sure it was cared for. And inspired by Jet. I watched 2 episodes of the show, and I still took something away from it.
It's a very easy show to copy.
He's a lot of the tropes that I've liked in other characters and stuff. He's really just emblematic of a character archetype that really appeals to me.
All of that is true. I would agree. It didn't surprise me that Jet was your favorite.
Sure.
It surprised me a little before I rewatched the show that you didn't like Spike. You found him fine.
He's fine. Yeah, I don't.
You don't dislike him.
No.
You think he's fine. That surprised me a little. But then I rewatched the show.
Sure.
And I think I get why.
Okay, talk to me.
Spike is a man haunted by his past. But more importantly, because that's true of sort of everyone aside from Ed on the Bebop, maybe Ein.
Yeah, Ein seems like he's doing all right.
But Faye, Jet, Spike, all three sort of belabored by, haunted by, fixated on their past. The difference is Jet is able to move on. He's able to take in things didn't go well in the past and move forward. Spike's not.
No, a lot of times people compare, and I bring this up because it's one of my favorite properties, formative for me, that Final Fantasy VI is about how people deal with loss. And I think the same could be said of the main cast here. Cowboy Bebop is how people deal with regret might be the best word.
Regret your past with how people deal with time.
Yes. We've got Faye, who has lost a lot of time. Ed, who doesn't seem to perceive time. We've got Spike, who is plagued by it and trapped. Yeah, that's another
floating,
word.
drifting, both literally and figuratively, in a morass of apathy, letting the days float by him one after another, not invested in anything that doesn't risk his own life. Because he never escaped his one bad day. He never escaped the Syndicate. Not in his head. Not where it mattered.
No. And then Jet, of course, who is trying his best to move past things and seek out
Closure.
And what's new? Move on.
He's able to move forward.
Yeah.
When something from his past comes up, he confronts it, he resolves it, and he moves forward.
It's another thing that keeps happening with him is that most of the time when something from his past does come up, it disappoints him. And, he still ends the episode going, all right, is what it is. Let's see what we can do from here on.
Whereas Spike, he isn't able to move forward.
He's hypnotized by it.
He's stuck. He's listless. He's depressed.
Yeah.
Spike Spiegel is one of the best examples of a fictional character who has depression, but isn't the stereotypical interpretation of that.
He's not, to take it to a comical bent, Eeyore. Much like a lot of folks who have depression, he is functional most of the time.
He can joke. He can laugh.
Yeah.
He can have a good time. He ribs with the rest of the crew. He can have good days, but nothing happens below the surface. Nothing that matters. Nothing that gets down deep. At that level, he's stuck.
It's sort of like those sticky hands or those balls you'll get out of a vending machine sometimes. A gachapon machine, but American version. You can throw it at the wall and it might stay there for a bit, but it will fall off eventually. It's not permanent.
And it's one of the reasons I think he's such a great character.
I think he's well written and I think he's worth exploring. But in terms of who brings me entertainment, who do I like? If this is a solo episode, how interested am I? Of the main cast, Spike is on the bottom of the list.
Well, all the solo Spike episodes are depressing as fuck. That doesn't help.
They are, and it's a departure from what I like about the show, and it's moody, and it is what's what I'm looking for here. Atmospheric, sure. It's thoughtful. That's not quite right, but it is making a point, not in the preachy sort of sense. Intentional, that's a good word. He's got some very intentional solo arcs. And I think he's usually a decent human being.
Insofar as he is a shitty human being, they are all shitty human beings.
It's, they're space bounty hunters. You kind of got to do what you do.
They're as good as the world allows them to be.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. And that kind of seeps over. One of the things we both did, it was when it became the appropriate episode, we stopped and watched the movie, which was not requested of us. We were just having a good time, and I figured, why not now?
If not now, when?
I didn't care as much for the movie as I did the show.
It has a different vibe.
It does.
I believe it was made after the show, sort of as a farewell to these characters. It's set between, I think we found out, episode 22 and 23. So that's when we watched it. It does provide some extra narrative weight. And I liked watching it in chronological order. If I were to ever do this again, I'd probably watch it after the end of the series.
I think it was nice for context, and it really did signal... It was a bridge from the sort of fun, energetic pace of the rest of the series to a more morose sort of conclusion. Because the episodes after that, with the exception of one really, really weird one, were just sort of serious. A lot of stuff, two of them, about Spike's backstory. A lot of, things coming to an end.
I would argue... So... Much has been made online. You can find a million video essays of about Real Folk Blues Parts 1 and 2. Those are the last two episodes of the series, the finale. Smarter people than me have said a lot of stuff about those 2 episodes of anime, about those 2 episodes of entertainment. And I love them. I think they're really good. They are also pretty dour.
It's not why I was here watching the show. Also,
I'd like to make an argument for something.
Okay.
Real Folk Blues Parts 1 and 2 is one of the best finales to any anime ever. But it's not actually the emotional finale of the series. That's Hard Luck Woman.
Sure.
Real Folk Blues Parts 1 and 2, the finale 2-parter, is the end of the story, and it is the end of Spike's journey. But it's not where the emotional resonance of, hey, things are gonna be done now, is. That's Hard Luck Woman. That's the episode right before that.
You've talked about, I believe it's the Dark Tower series. That
I have.
At the end of it, Stephen King stops and says, okay, you can stop reading now.
In fact, I recommend you stop now. There is more text. It's not going to make you any happier. I recommend anyone who watches this show watch the whole show. It's only 26 episodes.
I agree.
But if at the end of Hard Luck Woman, you find yourself going, man, that was a good time. That could be the end. You may want to listen to that instinct.
Yeah. It's still a good story, you know. It's nice the show has a conclusion, especially looking backward. How many series that we love never got that?
I love that they didn't overstay their welcome.
No.
They didn't over-egg it. They did the thing you always hear that you want to do, that so many things fail to actually listen to the advice of. If you're doing your job right, you always leave them wanting more.
Yeah. Even with those 2 episodes, I could have done another season of the antics.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
You want to go back. You want to spend more time with this crew on the Bebop, having their wacky adventures, where they go out and they got a big bounty, and then some hijinks ensue, and they fuck it all up, and or they do it exactly right, but being not fucking awful people, they turn down their reward for some reason and end up right back on the Bebop, broke, hungry, and looking for work. That's such a great formula. They could have done many seasons of it.
Oh yeah.
And they didn't. It was 26 episodes, 1 movie, that's your lot. Wild work. A lesser creator would have made more of this just because of how popular it is. And fucking kudos that they did not.
Yeah. I'm really excited to see more in this world from this director. I don't have his name in front of me. I apologize. But he did Space Dandy, which I've been meaning to see for years. I've been meaning to see Cowboy Bebop for years.
He also did Samurai Champloo.
I watched parts of that. That was really good. I don't think that's supposed to be set in the same universe.
It's absolutely not. He's just the same director.
Right. And there's a new one coming out soon that's supposed to be set in the same universe. Not the same characters, just the same vibe.
Shinichiro Watanabe.
There we go, Shinichiro Watanabe. Yeah, the music. My favorite part of the movie was the opening.
Dude, the opening was great.
That was spectacular, and it was so of its time, but also ahead of its time. I have seen that done maybe 20 times since, and I think that's the best time I've seen it done.
And a lot of those were probably because of Cowboy Bebop.
Yeah. It was just if you don't want to watch the whole ass movie, as of right now, I am not recommending you pirate anything. It is literally only available unless you're a collector of old media on YouTube.
Unless you can find an old ass like VHS or DVD of this movie, YouTube is the only way to watch it.
We watched the series on Disney Plus with Hulu. I don't know if that's required or not. It's just we have it.
We both watched the dub. It's what I grew up with. I over time have come to appreciate subs more than dubs, even though dubs are what I grew up with as a kid. But I didn't want to watch Cowboy Bebop. I wanted to re-watch Cowboy Bebop. Do you know what I mean?
I got brain bugs, so it is 20 times harder for me to read a TV show.
And that's fine. That's perfectly valid. Sometimes dubs are shitty. This is not one of those times.
No, this is a great cast. I was warned by the internet and a guy from Ohio about Ed going into this. And I thought I would be okay, and I was. I like Ed as a character a lot, actually. I mean, did that kick off an entire generation of Lol Random? In part, yeah. But it's okay. I was there. I survived the trenches. We're good.
Ed is such a delightful, So, yes. She's a kid, she's annoying, and she is a tonal whiplash from the rest of the series. But that's necessary.
It is.
You need that energy for a few reasons. One, structural. It helps keep the episodes light and fun, helps inject some humor. And two, integral. It's story-wise. It's not... Ed's presence on the Bebop and Ein change... They affect our main characters.
Sure.
They aren't stone in the face of this child, and that helps get them to where they need to be emotionally for the rest of the story. Now, mostly she's there to be a fun mascot character to keep things light and funny. This is not rocket surgery, guys. And she's delightful. She's a little annoying, maybe, if you are a teenager, I guess.
I mean, I can see why people would be annoyed by Ed, especially if they didn't live in the trenches back in the day when this was normal.
Yeah, exactly. It's just so... I've seen so much worse.
I feel like, and maybe this is old man me talking, but I feel like today's trends along these lines, personality behaviors along these lines are worse. And I don't necessarily mean that as in a sliding scale, just that they're more embellished, they're more emphasized.
They're more intense.
Yeah, intense, yeah. This is no different than a Pinkie Pie, for example. It's fine. Ed's fine.
Ein is delightful. No one dislikes Ein. If I ever meet someone who dislikes Ein, I don't know that I don't want to be friends with you.
No, I don't think so either.
I don't think you passed the vibe check.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't really know what else there is to say. I mean, plenty, but we're not analysts. We were just asked to review this.
Yeah, I'm way too dumb, y'all. There's so many smarter people who've said so much. I just look and even without watching any of it, just scrolling through.
Well, so let me ask you this: how does it compare? What is different now in you rewatching this show, either about you, your consumption of the show, or what have you, than it was when you originally saw it as a teen?
It's another thing I've been saving for the podcast. On rewatch, I still love Spike. I think I always will. He's even the way he the dress. You can see a lot of the characters I've played in tabletop RPGs in Spike Spiegel. But in ways I didn't even notice when I was making them. I will say. But on rewatch. God damn, but Jed is good.
He's very cool. I get more annoyed with Faye than I do Spike, but she's going through so much growth, especially in the second half of the series. It's hard for me to...
That's actually something I wanted to mention.
Yeah.
I never disliked Ed. I thought Ed was funny, even as a kid. I am so much more patient with Faye Valentine on the rewatch. I actually really disliked Faye when I originally watched this show. Because I dislike flaky users. I know, hot take. And that's kind of her shtick for the first half of the series. But on rewatch, and I think this is maybe me being older, maybe just having the context I have now that I didn't have then, it's much, much more, it's just funny. It's just amusing. It's no longer, frustrating. situation.
And it's good to see, too. It's good to see when she finally sticks around, you know, or feels bad about leaving, or comes back anyway. The loyalty that she learns, despite being abandoned by everything, is really heartwarming. Do you have any favorite episodes?
Yeah, Black Dog Serenade.
That was a really cool one.
It's the first episode of Cowboy Bebop I ever saw. I didn't know what the fuck I was watching, and rewatching it, it's probably the reason I wanted to watch the rest of the show.
It was cool. It was a very by the numbers kind of plot, but they pulled it off really
aura.
well. Yeah.
It's got so much aura. And scroll. We're looking at the episodes here. Scroll up. I want to get the name right. Toys in the Attic is funny, but
that was a wild one.
Yeah. There it is. Waltz for Venus. I really like Waltz for Venus.
I have to say mine was probably Speak Like a Child.
Yeah, that's perfectly best. It's not like there's a bad episode of this show.
It just I liked all the, you know, there being a guy obsessed with old tech and old TV shows, and I don't know, man, it's almost like representation matters or something.
I like their fun little adventure they go on.
Yeah, and I really liked the contents of the tape. Anything else you'd like to say about Cowboy Bebop before we bid everyone adieu?
See you, Space Cowboy.